Hey, this is just a quick note about our sponsor, Privado, the premier enterprise privacy platform, purpose-built to bridge the gap between privacy and engineering. Its privacy code scanning solution embeds privacy compliance and governance into the product development lifecycle and empowers privacy and security teams with unparalleled visibility of sensitive data flows and the insights to find and fix privacy vulnerabilities. You can leverage Privado's data flows, dynamic data mapping, privacy assessment automation, and real-time visibility of privacy issues. Enter the era of proactive privacy and transform privacy from business blocker to business enabler. To learn more, go to privado.ai. Hello, I am Deborah J. Farber. Welcome to the Shifting Privacy Left podcast, where we talk about embedding privacy by design and default into the engineering function to prevent privacy harms to humans and to prevent dystopia. Each week, we'll bring you unique discussions with global privacy technologists and innovators working at the bleeding edge of privacy research and emerging technologies, standards, business models, and ecosystems. On today's episode, we welcome Mert Boyar, Director of the Privacy Innovation Lab at Istanbul's Bilgi University. He's also founder of Virology, a privacy tech company that empowers privacy attorneys to automatically scan web application code for privacy compliance issues. And he's creator of the Hitchhiker's Guide to Privacy Engineering. In this episode, we discuss the fascinating and cross-functional projects that he oversees at the Privacy Innovation Lab, Mert's path from a musician to privacy law, then law student to founder, and then using his skill set to bridge knowledge gaps between privacy law and privacy engineering. We'll discuss his definition of creative privacy and his multimedia approach to making privacy law and privacy engineering more interesting and engaging to stakeholders. And lastly, we'll discuss Mert's new creative passion project, the Hitchhiker's Guide to Privacy Engineering, through which he's developing a comic book using generative AI art and authoring an engaging science fiction story while also educating on important concepts regarding privacy engineering. Enjoy the episode. Welcome, everyone, to Shifting Privacy Left. I'm your host and resident privacy guru, Deborah J. Farber. Today, I'm delighted to welcome my next guest, Mert Boyar, Director of the Privacy Invention Lab at Istanbul's Bilgi University, founder of privacy tech company Virology, and a hobbyist composer, to discuss his creative approach to educating others on core privacy engineering concepts. Hello, Mert. Welcome.
Hello, Deborah. Thanks for the invitation. I'm really excited and also honored to be here, considering the previous episodes were amazing, literally.
Oh, thank you. Well, there's only been 3 so far, so I'm really appreciative that you are willing to be a guinea pig on my new effort of this show.
It's a pleasure.
And I was extremely excited when I came across you. I had not known you before, but I had come across your work on LinkedIn. And before we unpack what some of that is, I would just love you to frame kind of your origin story. And later we're going to be talking about your comic book idea. So I thought framing it as your origin story would be really fun. How did you end up in the field of privacy and data protection and then find yourself leading the Privacy Innovation Lab at Bilgi University?
All right. So it's a pretty weird story because everything started when I got involved with entrepreneurship. And this was back in, let's say, I was in high school. And even that time, I was earning money by playing at the bars at the weekends. And we released an album with my high school band. And it actually became a hit in top charts in Spotify in Turkey. And that kind of teach me the things that how to create stuff and market it and build it in the production line, investments, etc. So then I started law school, but that wasn't really interesting for me enough. So I was more involved with, again, the entrepreneurship side. And as music was my hobby and the fuel of my creativity, I started to build something around music, a startup that helps musicians to compete with each other. So it's like a competitive platform for musicians. And that didn't work out, but that involved me with the foundation here in Turkey. The mission is to teach kids entrepreneurship and inspire them to become entrepreneurs. And make more awareness around, again, entrepreneurship in Turkey. So it's called the Turkish Entrepreneurship Foundation. And I was the first law student to be selected to that program. And that was like a defining moment for me because that really shaped the people around me that I most spend my time with. I finished law school and I started my internship. And the law firm I was working specialized on M&As and compliance. So I started to work like a traditional lawyer, let's say, for a year and a half. But in the meantime, I saw that as an intern lawyer, it was quite repetitive. And I really wanted to automate my tasks that I did as an intern lawyer. And that started as a side hustle. And that was the beginning of the privacy tech journey, actually, for me. Because then I got more involved with privacy compliance projects, the Turkish National Data Protection Law, and the GDPR in the meantime. So I got the CIPPE certifications, become the first young privacy pro of the IAPP KnowledgeNet Istanbul chapter. And then we built privacy policy generators because my friends at the foundation needed privacy policies that got accepted by the Apple Store. Because after GDPR, their way of doing things as like copy and paste from other websites didn't really work because Apple really checked if those privacy policies reflect the data processing activities going on the apps. So they were coming to me and I was writing privacy policies for them. And after like 3, 4, 5, I said, guys, come on, let's stop now. We can automate this as well. Just give me like a week and I'll automate this. So we went in and built this privacy policy generator that Apple actually approved while submitting an app to the Apple Store. And that actually got the interest of the biggest bank in Turkey. So they had this incubator program called WorkUp, and we got accepted to that. And that was the time when I quit the law firm and become like a full-time entrepreneur. And from that point on, we had some good traction because literally Verilogii is the first privacy tech startup in Turkey, like started as a garage band, literally. And actually, it is the oldest one still alive and going strong. And I'm happy to say that it's been like a 4.5-year journey right now. And after the incubator program, we attended the Baker & McKenzie Legal Tech Startup Challenge, a competition among legal tech startups. And we won second prize in that. And that helped us get to TechCrunch and display Verilogii at Berlin. And then we meet our investors, Startup Wise Guys from Estonia. And actually, that started my journey to move to Estonia just 2 weeks before the pandemic hit. And I got locked down and stayed there for like 6 months or so. My developer team, my co-founders couldn't leave Turkey. And yeah, from that point on, some of the dark times of Verilogii starts for me because after like a couple of months, I got separated with my co-founder, who was the CTO. So I'm stranded in Estonia. I need to form a new team from abroad, etc. So it was a really challenging times for me. And eventually I did overcome that as well. And I started a new team when I got back to Turkey. And then we focused on the privacy user experience side. So we were generating the privacy policies, but we thought there's this thing called legal design, which is getting really tractions from all stakeholders. So why don't we implement legal design techniques to privacy policies, cookie banners, consent prompts, and create a better user experience around privacy so that companies could leverage this as a unique selling point, just like Apple does, and build trust using transparency and better privacy user experience. But unfortunately, we did a bad, forecasting, and therefore the product was really good product, actually, I would say, but there wasn't any traction around it because the idea really seemed nice, but actually proving the KPIs and the return of investment the company would really be investing on a tool like this wasn't where we expected. And the biggest part that we missed was that none of the companies around the world is compliant with GDPR, CCPA, KVKK, 100%. So they're all walking in these gray areas, let's say, and becoming too much transparent, even if the idea of building a better user experience and trust, still, because the enforcement, etc., risks, companies don't want to really expose themselves that much. They don't want people to understand those privacy policies or how they really treat and how they process personal information, etc. So that point on, the dean of my university called me, and she wanted to create labs inside the university, which I will be getting into more detail in a minute. And so that paved a new way for the academia for me. as like I am currently the director of that lab since last year. And we're working like on various crazy projects there. And just with that, I gave a break from biology and worked as a product manager, like a privacy product manager, on two solutions. One of them was disposable digital identities that provide you like brand new email and phone numbers for any newsletter, any website, or any app that requests it, so that you could take control of your digital footprints, online threats. But because it's not decentralized, it didn't really felt right for me. Plus, it had lots of infrastructure obstacles on the carrier side, operator side, international phone carriers. And we had some problems, and that project didn't really live on. And finally, a data localization solution, which uses like an order preserved encryption and tokenization technology to help highly regulated industries, again, safely transfer data abroad, like use cloud services like Salesforce if they can't do it before, and etc. So all that failed products led to our current tool at Velogy, which is an open source database for website privacy due diligence that we do. We release reports on the most 100 trafficked websites and how actually their privacy policies and how they really handle data on the tracking technologies actually not really go hand to hand, and they're really conflicting and sometimes even manipulative. So currently that open source tool is being sold to privacy lawyers to understand where the email servers are, website servers are, what kind of cookies, technologies, tracking, and pixels they're on, what kind of network requests come and go to the website, etc. So basically, it's like what privacy lawyers do in like a half an hour and an hour thing. With Velogy, they can do it in a matter of like 70 seconds or so. So all these combined, and I have 7 products and led the product development of 7 privacy tech products. 6 of them have failed. But again, they gave me some insight that I would never have if I joined a big corporation in their privacy team or worked as a traditional privacy lawyer. So that insight and experience, again, has paved my way into Privacy Innovation Lab. And this is the background story in a nutshell.
I love it. Yeah, your origin story. And I learned so much about you. I think that is absolutely fascinating. And I think it's a testament to the fact that once you get into privacy, no matter what your entry point is to privacy and data protection, that there's different tracks you can end up in. You want to become an entrepreneur and work in technology. You don't necessarily have to be an engineer to start with, but I'm sure there are a lot of lessons learned that you can then share with people of all stripes, engineers, lawyers, product managers, or whatnot. So that is truly fascinating. I think I'm most struck by the fact that you were a rock star basically for one moment in time when you had a single, a big hit in the country, and then ended up running the privacy lab for a major university. So really love that. What I do want to know next is, a little bit more about the Privacy Innovation Lab. What function does it serve for the university? Who are the participants in the lab, and what are some of the projects that you're working on and some of your students are working on?
So basically, Privacy Innovation Lab is formed under Istanbul Bilgi University Faculty of Law. And there were 4 different labs formed at that particular time. And one of them was Privacy Innovation Lab. So what we do there is students and stakeholders gain the interdisciplinary skills in, let's say, modern software development, privacy engineering, security, activism, and legal to bring this synthesis together to create innovation around privacy. So we host learning sessions, ideathons, privacy tech startup events, public awareness campaigns, and lots of learning hands-on workshops, which I can explain a little further. So we currently have 60 students, and let's say more than half of them is legal backgrounds. And we have engineering, we have design, we have students from the marketing. And the best part is that we accomplished to turn this into a more multi-stakeholder lab, and where we collaborate with the other best universities in Turkey. And let's say one of them is really good at, let's say, machine learning. So we cooperate with them on the machine learning side. Let's say one university is really good at cryptology and, let's say, blockchain. We collaborate with them and really try to build this multi-stakeholder hub for innovation, I would say. And we have about the projects themselves, we have one activism project that helps Turkish citizens to learn more about their rights and how to protect themselves. It's called okudum, anladım, onaylamıyorum in Turkish, which basically translates to I have read, understood, and do not accept. So students build like TikTok videos and do some weird experimentations around like if our mics are listening to us and how these ads show up. So different operating systems, they do these weird experiments and they record them and put them like in little bits to social media to create this awareness around privacy. And there's this AI research working group. They're currently involved in many projects. However, like what they are building in regard to innovation is some sort of like an assessment tool to help practitioners build fair and lawful AI models. And they're like introduced to like no-code platforms. And so they're working on the legal side. They're building all these business logic inside and doing research and participating in conferences and bring it all together to build these innovative tools, let's say. And for this year, we have different tracks. So we have this self-sovereign identity track that is going on. One open source differential privacy library tool for health vertical, actually. And we have the privacy engineering track, again, where we teach students the basics of what they need to do as to work on like risk assessments, architecture design reviews, and legal and security, etc., all combined to have this hands-on practical approach on privacy engineering. So these are, I would say, the current projects. They're also building like privacy patterns. And we have around like anonymization, IoT, legal design, privacy UX, children's privacy, and all these various privacy patterns are turned into a library to be helpful to any stakeholder that might find them useful, I would say.
That is so comprehensive. I really love it. Part of me is like, I want to just come and join your lab because I'm just such a...
You should, Deborah. Please, our next meeting should be on Peel grounds. And I would love you to meet the students in a fireside chat or anything else
That would be really fun. I'm just absolutely excited about self-sovereign identity or decentralized identity generally. And so that is a field that I'm really glad to hear you've got focus on. Open source differential privacy is really cool. I graduated from law school back in 2005, and this would have been like a dream opportunity way back when privacy and data protection was back in its infancy, and there weren't even any law firms that were focused on it. It was really segmented out, at least in the United States. Was segmented out based on industry vertical. So what a long way we've come. I just want to reflect on that and how cool that you've been able to, really drive this cross-functional thought leadership at the university for where this innovation lab is. So you also have a really interesting vision for and have implemented an approach to educating lawyers and non-technical stakeholders on a highly technical subject like privacy engineering, which you call creative privacy. Can you explain your vision to us a little bit?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hello, loyal listeners. The Shifting Privacy Left podcast is seeking sponsors who want to help educate our growing community of privacy engineers. Position your brand in front of privacy engineers, architects, developers, researchers, and privacy tech buyers. Insert a 30 to 60 second ad like this one into every published episode of the podcast. This is dynamic content after all. Feature your new product, an upcoming conference, a sponsored special deal, endless opportunities. Email sponsorship@shiftingprivacyleft.com for more information on our sponsorship package. Okay, let's get back to our engaging privacy conversation.
So this is my new passion project that's been going on for like 2 months, I would say.
So a long time.
A really long time, yeah. But like working 17 hours a day makes it a long time there.
That's fair.
I feel like I haven't been this tired since like the first years of biology. But you know that excitement of like creating this new energy, new hype. So I'm really happy about this creative privacy thing and working with these young people, these law students, these engineers, and teaching them about privacy was a new challenge for me. And I learned the hard truth as starting with the privacy legislation itself, with the law, was not that much intriguing for the students. And when we set out to work on privacy innovation, I really saw that they really don't know anything about privacy. And more importantly, they didn't even care. So some of them didn't even know how to close their mics, like in our first meetings. So I really needed to improvise, to really got these young minds improvise and got them hooked. So what I did was I started the year like with a documentary about innovation called General Magic, and it tells the story about how engineers quit Apple and made the way for, let's say, Apple creating the iPhone. And that really sparked their interest and got them influenced on like innovation and the value of failures, let's say. And then I helped the kids come up with their own innovative projects. Any vertical, it wasn't only focused on privacy, it was only to get the juices going, let's say. And we did pitching competitions with their ideas, again, to feed their interest. And they really finally hooked after, like, let's say, a couple of months. And then I kicked off why privacy matters part. And we started storytelling around how our data is actually used against us, how it can harm us, or even harm democracies. So we invited amazing storytellers I really love, like Aral Balkan, and he came along and told us about his side of the story. And again, all these made it fun and engaging, and it managed to hook a lot of students. So we were around, like, let's say, 30 people working on Privacy Innovation Lab at the end of the year actively. And by telling them about privacy using creativity and art rather than something legalese and boring, I started to notice this thing called creative privacy mindset. And what I mean by that is, again, like, what is creativity? So most research show that it arises from mixing together of different ideas, subcultures, or disciplines together in a nice way, in a harmonized way, making the familiar unfamiliar. That's a really phrase that I really like. And really, like, almost never the creation of something truly new happens out of nowhere. So again, I'm involved with music. So in music, we have chord progressions, let's say 1, 4, 5, and you could play whatever song you want with it, or you have different keys and different scales to reflect these different emotions. So they're all hard-coded. And let's say in storytelling, you have this Joseph Campbell hero's journey with 12 steps to tell a good story. And again, all these really show that actually art can be algorithmic. And this is where, like, the creative privacy, how I put it into practice, involves really with creative AI itself. So, and these patterns allow AI to, again, build these artwork without any human. I just type texts and get these great looking images. And I use it for, like, the mastering and editing of the songs I compose for, again, this book that I will mention in a minute. So creative AI and machine learning space is, again, this is like a brand new era that we're in right now. With GPT-3, the text itself, and now music, images with stable diffusion and DALL-E, and videos, and even games are existing there that are created by AI. And there I came along this stable diffusion algorithm, and that actually started the Hitchhiker's Guide to Privacy Engineering comic book, which I actually work on for the last 2 months, let's say. So in a nutshell, it adds Gaussian noise at the start to an image, then try to predict using neural networks, deep learning, and actually generative adversarial networks to predict the noise added in each step. Then actually create this pipeline to generate a brand new image. So this was something that I can't explain, the thrill I felt, the goosebumps I felt the first time I created the image. So that was like magic for me. From that point on, 16 hours of my daytime goes to this. And it's a science fiction comic book that teaches privacy using creative AI. So being the first company on the Turkey in the privacy tech scene, trying to create a market, telling different stakeholders the value of it, the risks of it, and the LLM students, the privacy engineering track, the lab itself. So I got this, like, out of the box experiences that I could have reflect on a single project. And as teaching is quite an art of its own, all these methods could allow me to come up with some novel ways on how to teach. So that was the starting point after I saw the images that were created magically by these creative AI tools. And I'm a person with an ADD, so looking down at long text or watching long videos, that's have always been a challenge for me. So I always tend to learn better, actually, if the information is coming to me through something original and creative. So eventually all these ideas come up and all filtered down to, why not teach privacy engineering skill set I have gained over the years, using the newly learned skills in stable diffusion, in no-code development, and the creative AI, and adding some good storytelling to turn this into a comic book that teaches privacy engineering. And with my startup and all my blogs, articles, my main target audience has been privacy lawyers. So it is for privacy lawyers who would love to learn more about how the technical sides works, from how computers work, how internet works, to how mobile privacy works, to all the way to, let's say, trusted computing, or let's say differential privacy, to privacy enhancing technologies. And each chapter is carefully designed that uses a technique called environmental storytelling. You could read the book, the privacy engineering part, and get a sense of where the story goes. Or you could just read the story separately as a standalone novel, let's say, and enjoy the story there and try to learn more about the lore, etc. And the curriculum is actually based on my personal privacy engineering roadmap I have set for myself when I started all these. And it involves like everything from what I really wanted to do there was helping these privacy lawyers get more acquainted, more familiar, break those technical barriers, and write some commands in their terminals, write a couple of scripts in Python, use some open source, install them on their terminal, and got this real feeling of how really connect with the data rather than just looking at long texts and try to predict what the data's life cycle really is. So that's what the skill set I really want to push forward with this. And I think it's going to be a trilogy, Debra. Like, I'm not sure yet. It's just an idea. But I might do it like a trilogy, 3 books. The first one would be more in the getting the 101 to privacy, more broad audience. The second part is more privacy lawyers, getting inside the privacy world. And the third one is more on the privacy engineering and the hardcore part of more engineering and more technical side. So I will be doing some A/B tests and try to understand that. And that's about it, I would say. So music also, for one last point, I'm also composing music for each chapter. And I'm literally playing the piano manually in analog ways. But I'm, again, using an AI tool to automatically edit the mix and mastering of the production level audio. So to sum it up, creative privacy is, I think, a way of means to spread privacy like never before. And that's what I'm trying to do with the Hitchhiker's Guide. And also this, let's say, this new movement, let's say the first art movement around privacy. The best part is, like, I've been involved with 6 different products from B2C to B2B. This is the first time in privacy landscape, I feel I can reflect the most me. So even my parents are telling me that. So like, this is a project that truly reflects what you are. So we really loved it. I think people that know me the best really can see the correlations between my life and this Hitchhiker's Guide to Privacy Engineering really has in common.
It's mind-blowing to me that you and I have only met like a week ago, but hearing your story in full today, I find that I identify with so much of it. I have ADHD, and I've only been recently diagnosed like a year and a half ago. And and I'm a little older than you as well. So it has been a challenge for me, to care about a lot of what my brain perceives as boring stuff around, whether it's law or engineering or, the status quo or change not happening fast enough, right? And seeing the patterns across the industry that I've dedicated my career to, privacy and data protection, of how things are moving, how trends are moving towards decentralization, away from surveillance capitalism. I'm drinking from so many fire hoses at once in different industries so that I can really fully understand what is going on across many different industries, and then be able to articulate that back and advise people on what is the market for privacy tech, for privacy engineering, for making change and being effective in it. And so I'm really struck by, so many of our similarities in how we've approached kind of crafting an experience that really works individually. It was really personal for me or for you. So like you, this entire podcast for me is my way to synthesize into some sort of art form and, an audio conversation where I can meet people where they're at, where the interviewee, the guest, can come with their experience. And instead of me trying to break down like, okay, wait, are you coming from this perspective or from that perspective? Or, instead it's by the way that someone frames a question or frames an answer, I understand exactly where they are and can then have that conversation that unpacks the interesting aspects of privacy and data protection. And so I'm really excited. I'm really grateful that you agreed to be on this show today. And we've been tiptoeing around the name of your book, but the name of the book is The Hitchhiker's Guide to Privacy Engineering. I first heard about your work. I was really excited to see the creative AI aspects, the use of stable diffusion, and these generated AI pictures that you self-select for the content, and how much fun that must be to find the right thing that you feel like totally sums up your vision. And so tell us a little bit more. I really loved the initial chapters of your book. To me, the creativity just jumps off the page and draws you in. It's that, it could be the science fiction aspect of it. It could be the fact that it's using modern privacy and security and data protection terms that people are learning, even if that's not the reason they came there to learn in the first place. Maybe they just wanted the storytelling, and they ended up with, actually gaining a lot of knowledge, right, from reading it. So tell us about the goal with this book and what you hope to achieve. I mean, I know you gave us a little bit about that with the aspect of creative privacy and why that's your passion project. And now you've mentioned that it's you're thinking about a trilogy, which I just love, because how sci-fi is that? I just think like Star Wars, right? For this particular book, what is your goal? What do you hope people who read the book leave with? What impressions?
Hopefully they will learn more about privacy engineering as a start. And again, the really idea is to change people's perspectives on, like, there are two sides of the coin. And yes, there are legal, there are compliance, and what they do in their day-to-day jobs, and what I did in my day-to-day job as like working at the law firm, that's not enough to really protect a fundamental human right, such as right to privacy. And that was where my story began, as that part-time tool, the first one, while I was working at the law firm. It actually, one of my motivations was, I need to learn more about technology if I would like to be a good privacy lawyer and understand this whole landscape and the invisible stakeholders involved, invisible processing operations involved. And that really kicked off the building products from scratch and all that journey. And really, if you don't get inside the kitchen, there is no way that you could really understand what's going on besides what the technical teams tell you. And that's not a way to go. That's not, like, in my eyes, a privacy engineer needs to vet on those informations by themselves without needing anyone else. And that requires a really hands-on approach. So after the trilogy is complete, I have set like a 2-month deadline for the first part, which I almost finished the half of it with the early access newsletter, which anyone interested can just find on LinkedIn, Hitchhiker's Guide to Privacy Engineering. And I'm also building this Gitbook page that I use like a CMS, let's say, and I keep all the content, all the videos, all the music, the chapters alone separately, and the privacy engineering knowledge base there as well. And I write about creative AI, creative privacy there occasionally. So I'm so involved with the creativity part right now. I really don't care, Deborah, with all the websites need to be done. Social media needs to have these KPIs. So I'm really happy to be freed of all the KPIs and all the urgency, the deadlines of the startup, the founder, and have this like more artistic project here where like the only limit is your imagination, but the only problem is how to set limits and again make it work in its deadlines, not that strict. And eventually all these 3 books combined, I believe in the end will help privacy lawyers that never had access to the technical tools that I teach on using, or the technical, how can I say, understand more conceptually how the modern software technologies work and how data processing in the technical way goes. So I have like more crazy ideas, but I will definitely fill you in on them, Deborah. But it's too early to talk here at the moment because, yeah, they're too early stage and I'm just riffing around on crazy ideas on where this could lead.
Amazing. So what comes to mind to me is very often when we talk about innovation labs or privacy and security labs, especially with privacy enhancing technologies, one of the challenges is being able to bring the innovation out of the lab and being able to systemize it into another organization, or if it's in an organization, how to systemize it within the organization from one area of the business to the other. And I guess I want to ask this, how will you advise others to be able to take the great work that you've done, the fun storytelling with the pictures and, to really denote and spread privacy awareness, but about the topic of privacy engineering. So like privacy awareness, but not what we typically see, which is very basic, maybe on January 28th every year of International Privacy Awareness Day, very basic tips that, instills awareness across an organization's, staff as to different ways they could better protect the privacy of customers and employees, right? So if that's what we have today, and then we have something that's actually a little more technical or frames the topic in a different way through the Hitchhiker Guide to Privacy Engineering, do you think it's going to land well in its current form? Do you think you're going to need to make changes? Are you still figuring that out? And I guess basically, what's the strategy to make sure that we can take the great work you've done and then others could educate lawyers and students and maybe your non-technical folks on this field of privacy engineering in a way that they'll succeed just as well as you have?
I think creative privacy enthusiast is a term that I would love to be in the group of that people. And I believe we should definitely talk to each other more, work on projects more, and cooperate on spreading the privacy, like you mentioned, collectively and building these hubs, I would say. And again, the trilogy is the closest deadline, but the next step of my roadmap around creative privacy is building this community. And I'm really happy because from all around the world, from the Netherlands, Norway, France, privacy lawyers reach out to me and say this broadened their horizons and they never thought science fiction and privacy could be together, or creative AI could be used in this process, or music can be evolved this way. So already we are building this community and we're around let's say 5 to 10 people at the moment. But with Privacy Innovation Lab, also the students are really intrigued by it. And we're now building this special working group around creative privacy. And the students there and all these people who approached me on LinkedIn that they want to do stuff around creative privacy and experiment on stuff that's never been experimented on before. The title would be, let's say, the Creative Privacy Project, the name of the community. I'm just again, riffing here, Debra. I think you could help me with the naming and all. But bringing these people together and collaborating is the way to go in my eyes. And I hope that answers the question.
It does. It does. After asking the question and listening to your response, I think there's a real opportunity here to elevate the role of privacy engineers within an organization to use perhaps the Hitchhiker's Guide to Privacy Engineering as a way to build awareness within an organization that privacy is beyond, just compliance or beyond just cookie consent banners, right? There's just such a huge world of patterns and architecture and tool sets and data minimization tools and transparent approaches and different ways to elevate that this technical need of the organization to non-technical stakeholders within the organization and making them smarter. And I think it's going to do the job. So I'm really excited to see the metrics, the KPIs that, how does this project evolve, and maybe read updates from you, maybe have you back on the show in the future to hear how the adoption of it has helped organizations.
I would love that, Debra. And the only use case that currently is more concrete on our side is the one I have mentioned to you. And it's, again, it's going to be a project under Privacy Innovation Lab. And we have different stakeholders there. So we're in cooperation with the UNDP and the Harvard Berkman Klein Center. And we're trying to figure out ways, especially in the case for vulnerable people. Because like you said, inside the organizations, it might be a real good tool to teach non-tech savvy people to understand more. And just like that, it could be a way of reaching an audience and vulnerable people that privacy couldn't reach before. And the best example is the children themselves. And the kids' privacy is a big problem, which, again, the GDPR 5.1a, the transparency principle, recitals 38, 58, the new age-appropriate design code, or even all the way Article 29 guidelines. They all say the same thing, how you should communicate with things, but they miss the how part. And I believe creative privacy and projects and again, improvising around this new approach would allow us to communicate with these vulnerable groups as never before and create new ways of communication and empower these, let's say, vulnerable people. Or in your example, again, I think it fits perfectly on that scenario as well. Teaching employees, raising their awareness that privacy goes beyond the legislation and, the fundamentals, the core of privacy and security, etc. So I really like that idea as well, Deborah. Yeah.
So when you were talking about the Harvard Berkman Center and other stakeholders assisting with children and vulnerable populations, are you referring to the Istanbul Privacy Symposium?
Yes, they were there at the conference and I did a case study there. And actually, I told a story about, again, the creative privacy and novel approaches, because the symposium was about AI and its interplay with kids. Then I concluded it with how children can benefit. And recently we had meetings with them and everyone's interested on like working on these creative privacy mindset and build projects around it to create this awareness that wasn't there before. And everyone's excited. And that really excites me as well. And all this hard work is being put into action. That would be, and creating real value. That would be like the crown jewel of it all for me, I would say.
Wonderful. And that makes sense. Are there any resources that you want to tell our audience about in terms of where they can go to learn more? We've already you mentioned that the Hitchhiker's Guide to Privacy Engineering, the various chapters you've released so far of the book can be found on your LinkedIn page. So I'll make sure to share that in the show notes for anybody who's listening to this episode. Is there anything else that you want to direct people to, shout out a website, whether it's for the Innovation Lab or for other projects you're working on that you think would be helpful to the audience?
privacyinnovationlab.com, and the recent one is .org. TLD is the websites for the Privacy Innovation Lab. I can also share a link for our last year's annual report that we published, and that's also can be found on LinkedIn. So I'll be sharing the link with you if anyone interested in the lab itself and how to communicate with us. And also a shout out for my startup, perhaps. Actually, like it's very different for me because like usually I talk about it and it's weird that the first time it is the least amount of time I spent telling a story about for the last 5 years. So that's a big paradigm shift for me, Deborah.
I bet.
Yeah, and for privacy lawyers who would like to understand the risks of a website and if their clients are constantly iterating and adding new stuff, deleting new stuff, and that the privacy policies that write on the website matches with the data processing itself, they might give it a try to Verylogy and verylogy.com and try the 14-day trial. And again, can reach out to me if they would like to talk about it, give feedback, etc.
And how can they reach out to you? So besides LinkedIn, do you have a Twitter account that for as long as Twitter's still a thing, or any other, email address if you wanted?
Yep, I'm on LinkedIn only. I'm not a big user on Twitter yet. With Hitchhikers, I think I'm going to get more involved in Reddit and Twitter as my testing shows. Anyway, so LinkedIn, Mert Can Boyar is my main point of contact, and mert@verylogy.com is my email. And that's the one I most reachable.
Excellent. Well, Mert, thank you so much for joining us. Until next Tuesday, everyone, we'll be back with interesting content from another great guest. Thanks for joining us this week on Shifting Privacy Left. Make sure to visit our website, shiftingprivacyleft.com, where you can subscribe to updates so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found this episode valuable, go ahead and share it with a friend. And if you're an engineer who cares passionately about privacy, check out Privado, the developer-friendly privacy platform and sponsor of this show. To learn more, go to privado.ai. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday for a new episode. Bye for now.